January 5th, 2026, protesters demonstrated outside the U.S. consulate in Rio de Janeiro, expressing support for Venezuela and condemning the United States' actions.
Se deixar, vai acontecer com o Brasil, com Cuba, com a Bolívia, com o México. Tem que dar basta nesse batidão louco. O povo americano tem que reagir e o Congresso americano tem que pedir o impeachment do presidente Trump, que ele não passa de bandido do capitalismo selvagem internacional.
Brazil, Latin America's largest economy, has been navigating challenging times in its relationship with the United States. In July 2025, the U.S. slapped an additional 40% tariff on Brazilian goods in response to the jailing of the country's former president, Bolsonaro, who was a Trump ally and a vocal critic of China. The move sparked large anti-U.S. protests in Brazil. The 40% tariff sits on top of a 10% baseline tariff. Brazil is also one of the founding members of BRICS.
BRICS was set up to hurt us. BRICS was set up to degenerate our dollar and take our dollar as the standard, take it off as the standard. And if we lost the world standard dollar, that would be like losing a war, a major world war. We would not be the same country any longer. We're not gonna let that happen. The dollar, you ever hear the expression, dollar is king? The dollar is king. We're going to keep it that way, okay?
Chinese investments have been pouring into Brazil, where Chinese brands have become household names.
I think Brazil is the most important country as far as China is concerned in Latin America, or even in the global south.
Brazil's population is more than 200 million, of which 40% are under 30. It offers a vast consumer base for companies looking for new markets amid a rising tide of protectionism. Chinese ride-hailing giant Didi, known in Brazil as 99, has successfully challenged American company Uber to become a key player in the ride-hailing and food delivery market in the country. Chinese companies, Temu, Shein, and Alibaba, are all expanding aggressively into the e-commerce space there. Chinese automakers, BYD and Great Wall Motors, have also recently opened plants in Brazil. Brazil is the world's 6th largest car market, and Chinese brands are making rapid gains. As local politicians cheered, BYD pledged more support for job creation in Brazil beyond their own manufacturing plant.
We are working closely with the local authorities, industry, and help them to get update technologies. And we are in the process to qualify more than 150 local vendors to be our suppliers.
In the energy sector, China has also poured billions into electricity transmission projects.
When we look at China's engagement in Latin America, there are hierarchies of importance in terms of the states. Not all the states are the same. And when we look at the top of that hierarchy sits Brazil. $171 billion of two-way trade in 2025, a major source of soybean, of minerals, of oil, but more importantly, Brazil is also a major market for Chinese e-commerce, Chinese cars, Chinese technology. So in many ways, it is a much more important partner than Venezuela is economically. Venezuela's oil, let's be sure, is important, but it's not that important for a couple of different reasons. One, the quantities just haven't been that large. When you look at what the Chinese are importing from Saudi Arabia, from the other Gulf countries, even Brazil, and to some extent even the United States, Venezuela's share is very small, again, at about 4 to 5%. China is getting very close to reaching peak oil, so which is another reason when we look down the road, 15, 20 years down the road, we're not going to see more reliance on imported crude for China. They are shifting faster than any other major economy to sustainable, renewable energy. So right now, losing oil from both Venezuela and Iran is an inconvenience, to be sure, and it presents short-term problems. But long-term, China's future isn't going to rely on imported crude.
Chinese investments in Brazil surged in 2024 to a record $4.2 billion across 39 projects. That made Brazil the third largest destination for Chinese investments that year. Brazil's exports to China have also grown, particularly in beef and soybeans. Brazil's government said that between January and August 2025, 77 million metric tons of soybeans were exported to China. During that period, China imported just 17 million metric tons from the US, according to China's customs data. Soybeans are a sticking point for the Trump administration because the farmers are located in the Midwestern states of Illinois, Iowa, Minnesota, Nebraska, and Indiana. These are states that back Trump. Now, many American farmers fear bankruptcy as China, their largest market, closes. Unlike Cuba and Colombia, Brazil hasn't seen any threats from Trump. But the events in Venezuela have undoubtedly complicated Brazil's calculations.
Brazil is a major country. It is with a 200 million strong population. It's not about to bend in the face of US pressure. And it's interesting that days after the capture of Maduro, it signed, after 25 years of negotiations, it signed the EU-Mercosur trade deal, which obviously opens up markets on both sides for trading of goods. And obviously Brazil will want to benefit by greater exports of agricultural goods. It's not just a commercial change, though. It's a sign this is the global order that we believe in, which is based on cooperation and partnership between nations according to rules. And Brazil is going to probably start looking for all those opportunities and partnerships out there which will help defend the multilateral order. But Brazil knows that were it to come to a military conflagration, and hopefully that would never happen, that it would be at a singular disadvantage compared to the United States. No country in Latin America, not even its most powerful and largest, can stand up to the United States on the field of battle, as it were. So they must all look for different forms of protecting themselves and finding a future in this disturbing new world that we're living in.
Nossa região não deseja ser palco de disputas hegemônicas. Há mais de uma década, a CELAC declarou a América Latina e o Caribe como zona de paz. Não queremos repetir a história e encenar uma nova Guerra Fria. Nossa vocação é ser dos eixos de uma ordem multipolar na qual o Sul global esteja devidamente representado.
This is what a lot of countries up until now have said. We want to stay out of the great power rivalry. We want to stay out of the fight. That may not be a luxury that they have anymore.